Today on Tying Tips, I'm going to show you how to properly counter rib a hackle. It's a question we get here constantly. I know personally I did it wrong most of my life, but I'm going to show you the proper way to do it. I'm going to show you a little trick. I've got a woolly sculp when I'm starting here. That's what I'm going to counter rib. But I want to show you just a couple time savers and things that also make your fly stronger. So I've got my tail set and I advanced my thread forward. And now I've tied in two different tails, right? And so I'm up here at the front. And now I'm going to put in my wire. I'm using gold brassy. It doesn't really matter what size wire you use. And this is to make the fly secure. And I'm going to set this wire, I think you'll be able to see it. I'm going to set the wire so I've got about a ½ inch or an inch forward. And I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 turns roughly. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to wrap that wire back. And I want you to see, I'm going to come back about to the halfway point. So I've got it in and I started it back. I didn't go to the back of the fly. I started right here because I've got to get back there anyway. And you really should wrap your wire and do an angle and then just make nice secure wraps. And I personally like this to end on the upper side. I like it to be right on top when I finish right here. So here's my wire. And so what we've accomplished, and this is a critical thing, because if you tie your wire in and you don't wrap it or you don't secure it and you start through this thing, you go to pull your wire to set this and it pulls out, you just wasted a lot of time. And it also tells you your fly's not going to be that secure. It can loosen up after it gets wet. So you can see it comes up, wraps back around, and now this thing, you could pull on that thing, you could hang a cow off of it. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to be working with this New Age chenille. I love this stuff. This is a Cascade Crest thing. This is just a regular chenille that's got a little bit of mylar in it. Really cool looking. But I want to show you how to tie this in right, because this is another thing with chenilles. You don't see chenilles as much as you used to, but there's a right way to do it so it doesn't pull out when you start ready to tie it. Another thing I want to show you is just to leave it in your bag. Leave this stuff in the bag, and you get used to just hanging it here, and it won't be all over the place. But the trick I want to show you is that when you tie in chenilles, you strip these ends off so you don't have the bulk of the actual material, and you tie in just these two threads. And so, I mean, you can see those threads. So we're going to tie this in. We're going to come in here and just do a pinch wrap and just set just the threads, and then just catch them both, get them a little right there, and you can cinch them down. Move right ahead. And so now it would be very difficult to pull those off of there because they're cinched up a ½ inch. And now, like with everything, with every chenille you tie, with any body material that's, maybe excluding wire to a certain extent, got anything like a dubbing brush wire, and any of the things that have rayon, any of them that have cotton, anything that's nylon, anything that the core is stretchable, you come in here, you do one turn, grab it by the tail, and pull and stretch it. Set it about every fourth one, pull it, set it. Pull it. That way you're setting your material, your body's super tight, and you're not going to have to deal with getting halfway up there and having one bite of a fish and having the thing loosen up and you're done. Your body comes apart. But this is about counter wrapping. So now I'm going to this is some seriously sexy schlopping right here. This is from the Root River Fly Company. These guys do some really cool stuff. So when I set my hackles, get that out of the way so you can see it. This is just a schlopping hackle. And when I do this, when I wrap one of these, this is a woolly sculpin that I'm tying. I like to have a little bit of this fluff in here right at the beginning, but I've always got to look to see that the hackle stem is not too thick right here. And you can see where it starts to reduce, and I still got a little bit of that stuff in there. I just think it's kind of sexy in the front of it. It just gives a little bit of push, a little bit of more flare out when it's got that on it. So now, just like with every time, we've done this on a lot of ties, but this is just another tip. When you tie in a hackle, You come from the bottom, you get the there's two sides to a feather. There's the shiny side and the dull side. The convex or the concave side. If you're ever wondering, it's where the shiny side's what you look at when the bird's alive, right? And you want the shiny side to your right or the convex side to your right. You come in here and you come underneath the hook. You don't tie it in like this and then make it do a right angle. You tie it in from the bottom. You just hook it with your thread. Just bump it into your thread. Come over top. One more over to the top and the opposite. Go from right to left, left to right. Do a figure 8. Come in here. Now watch. I got 2 turns. Now watch. I'm really cranking on this feather, right? But you notice the feather isn't spinning in any direction. It's staying right where I put it because I did the 2 turns of thread. I did a figure 8 loosely. I did 2 turns in front, and then I squeezed on it, and it's cinching down that hackle. But it didn't twist the hackle because it happened simultaneously. All right. Now, this is actually what the tying tip's about, is counter wrapping. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to make sure my feathers are out to my barbulars are out to the side. And I'm going to take one really clean turn here, and I'm going to pull on that. See how I'm pulling on that hackle? You have to get used to how hard you could do that without breaking it, obviously. But it's kind of like all those things. I do the one turn and anchor that in. So I've got a really seriously secure set. Now I've got the fuzzy stuff sitting all around here. Get this off to the side. And then I'm just going to go back, keeping the shiny side to the right. And you can see this slopping, so it's kind of webby and it's all fuzzy. I just thought this was such a sexy feather, I used it. But generally on my woolly sculpins, which is one of my favorite flies in the world, I use rooster hackle on it. Because I like that shiny, I don't know, slopping hackle just kind of dull to me. But, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns of hackle on here. And I'm back at the back of the hook, right? And this is why I set that wire. Remember I said at the beginning when I started this, that I set the wire on top of the hook. And the reason I do that is because you keep the hackle in your left hand, and you get this, and you wrap your wire around. I get a 3/4 of a wrap around the back side with the wire, so I know it's nice and secure, right? It's set really set well in, and then the hackle's right here in front of me. I can see that I've captured it. And this is a trick I learned from Davey Watton, who, by the way, if you've never seen Davey's tying tapes, he's maybe the best tyer ever, as far as practicality. And he's just great. But I used to try to work this through, and I was taught to kind of work it through. And I watched Davey, and he says, no, just go absolutely as fast as you can. You won't trap anything. And it works. You just really haul. And now what I've done when I went forward, I've got 3 turns on there. I can break that off. You can cut it. You're going to come in and catch it anyway. And I want to show you, cut your tip off here. And so you can see I didn't capture any of those feathers. If you've got one trapped, I did have one right there. Just come in and clean it out. But what you've done, in the old days, you would see people, they'd kind of try to walk through it, and that's fine too. But I used to see a lot of people, they would tie their hackle from the back forward, and then you'd come back and try to catch it. And so that, you don't really catch it that many of them. But the other thing I saw is people would try to wrap the opposite direction. And essentially they're doing the same thing I just did, but they'd wrap this way. But the biggest problem I found with that, excuse me, is that when I got to the front of this fly, and my wire's coming this way, when you put your thread on clockwise, when the wire's coming at you counterclockwise, you can't help but push your wire and loosen it up. So this way, when I come forward, I wrap, zoom, right there, I'm going with the thread, and when I put the thread on, it helps me tighten the wire even more. So that's how you properly counter wrap a hackle. Hope that helped you out.